life to me, more than just a single thread, it seems like it's just all these threads that intertwine. And
Yeah.
if you start tugging on one of them, you're going to change all of the rest of them.
Through the halls of memories, brushstrokes of history, capturing humanity. Stories left untold, whispers of the past, secrets they withhold. Yeah, yeah. Oh, 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 oh. The condition report. Yeah, it's great to see you. Fun fact, I was just counting the emails. You and I have emailed 149 times together.
Oh my goodness. I would have never thought that much,
No.
huh?
And it's the first
Good.
time I've seen you. And
So where are
it's
you at?
I'm in Tampa, Florida.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Are you actually in Amarillo?
Yeah, I'm in Amarillo. I'm usually here.
Yeah.
Sure, that
I'm
sounds good.
excited. I'm excited to talk to you.
Okay, good. Good, me
Yeah.
too.
So I guess, one thing that I saw on your website, and I guess I'm just not sure, that the Amarillo Railroad Museum has been open for 33 years. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
did you
well,
start
that's
it?
when we started. But we started pretty small. As a matter of fact, there was a group of us. Okay, I'll give you the history.
Yes, love to hear it.
Yeah, there was a railroad club called the Amarillo and Canadian River Model Railroad Association, which is a ridiculous name. And it fell apart because there was no vision. It was just a bunch of guys getting together, and we were actually renting from one of the members a small little shed that he had.
Yeah.
That fell apart, and then in 1990, there were four of us that got together, and we wanted to restart a model railroad club in Amarillo. And these were four members from the previous club. And actually, we got together, and the very first time we met at an IHOP and just drank a bunch of coffee and started talking about what we could do. Could we
Yeah.
get something going? How would we go about it? The first thing we wanted to do was the four of us to get kind of a vision statement together. We
Yeah.
really wanted a plan that we were going to follow rather than just kind of be a bunch of guys playing trains. So
Right.
about a month later, we met where I worked with Texas A&M at the research center here in Amarillo. Um, they had a good sized auditorium,
Yeah.
and I could use that because I worked there. So we put an announcement in the newspaper and had about 30 people show up.
Oh,
And we had a good time just getting to know each other and kind of getting to know people's interests in starting a club. We met the next month and actually kind of um, formally organized, and that was May. And one of the fellows that was interested in becoming part of this club offered the use of his um, actually it was a basement at his auto body shop.
nice.
And so we started meeting there, and we had the idea of building a model railroad. They were modular.
Yeah.
Each person would build a four by, let's see, I think they were 4 by 2 foot sections. And then you could hook these all together and make a railroad out of them.
Yeah.
And we did that. We started building there. Then we moved from his basement up to a pretty good size, what would you call almost an attic over their paint shop. And we got bigger up there. The layout got bigger. Um, then it was kind of a long history. We started doing Christmas shows at various malls in Amarillo, and
Yeah.
we got an offer to set up permanently at a storefront in one of the malls, Western Plaza, that was had a bunch of empty storefronts. It was kind of on this downward slide. We stayed there for a number of years, did a Christmas show every year, and the membership started to grow. We finally were pretty well convinced that the mall was going to go out of business.
Oh,
So we started looking for property, and that was one of our goals was to end up with property that we owned that we couldn't get thrown out of, uh,
Yeah.
or the rent couldn't get so high we couldn't stay or whatever.
Right.
So we ended up buying 12 and a half acres from, it was actually Amarillo College by that time. It had been the Texas State Technical College owned it at one time. We bought that 12 and a half acres land, and a couple of years later started building a building.
Wow.
And we built a 50 by 100-foot metal building. We paid for about half of it and took out the rest in a mortgage. Uh, and we had a fellow that we paid for. The fellow built the slab and the steel structure and the sheathing, and
Yeah.
then we did all the interior work ourselves, like the individual rooms of stud, all the wood that could be built in that.
Yeah.
Uh, build rooms, the restrooms, a kitchen, a storage room, meeting room, and then about 25 by that was 25 by 50. Then the other 75 by 50 was the huge layout room.
Yeah.
And we immediately got rid of all the modules because we were pretty sure what would happen is that we'd get the modules would get set back up again, and then we wouldn't do anything. So that made a few members pretty irritated. As a matter of fact, I would say five or six left
Oh,
because
wow.
that's not what they wanted to do.
Okay.
So we spent a lot more time learning how to do wood framing than we did model railroading for a number of years,
Wow.
and started building the layout. I think in 2005, around that time, that's when we had the building approved by the city that we were okay and ready to go. So
Yeah.
we've been working on it since then.
Wow. So how do a bunch of guys that like model railroad trains convert to actual real trains?
It actually really works kind of the opposite way around.
Oh,
People
really?
that have worked for the railroad or had an interest in it uh, come into model. Well, people come into model railroading through all kinds of different ways, but usually people just have an interest in. A lot of us like miniatures as such,
Okay.
and model railroading is a way of reproducing the real thing in miniature.
Yeah.
So, like for myself, I grew up in Missouri, and I was right next to uh, the Missouri Pacific Railroad's main line that ran from St. Louis to Kansas City. And I always, for some reason, I just have a train gene in me. I know both my grandfathers enjoyed railroads for one reason or another. Never had a member of my family work for the railroad. I've never worked for the railroad,
Right.
but I've just always had this interest. And if I could see a train, and then as I got older and was able to put like more money and time and effort into it, and I could build something that was close to what I actually saw. To me, that was the whole thing. Or to
Yeah.
build a structure, let's say like a depot that I knew, or a building that was in my hometown along the railroad, and it was just kind of like recreating the prototype, the big thing in miniature.
Right.
And I know a bunch of us like to do that. That's our whole deal with the railroad. Now, with the Amarillo Railroad Museum, we're trying to do the Santa Fe Railway from Canadian Texas to Clovis, New Mexico, which cuts across the panhandle kind of in the diagonal from east to west. Now, we can't do that 150 miles. That's crazy. There's 60 feet to a scale mile in HO,
Okay.
and that's a scale we use. So you can imagine 150 miles times
Yeah.
60 feet. And the thing is, you wouldn't want to do that. We've got a railroad that is about 5 scale miles long, but if you run at a decent speed, it's going to take you about 40 minutes to do that.
Wow.
So you wouldn't want to run 150 miles. Who would? I mean, it'd be like going on a drive for 150 miles.
Right.
It's going to take a long time, and the maintenance would be just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
There's
I'm
enough
actually,
maintenance to do now.
yeah. I say I'm actually glad you talked about your time in Missouri because I was really hoping that that was the case. Like that was when you were a kid, you loved trains, and then you pursued that. I'm so glad that that actually is
Yeah.
was what happened.
My maternal grandfather died before I was born, but my mom had always told me that he would love to just drive up to the railroad tracks. This was in another town, and in Missouri, and watch a train go by, and
Yeah.
then he'd just be satisfied and they'd go home. Now, my paternal grandfather, he took my brother and I on train trips. He liked to spend time with his grandkids, and
Yeah.
he'd come out from St. Louis or close to St. Louis out to Washington, get us on like a Saturday morning, and we get on a train in Washington and take off.
Wow.
And we'd go. He knew where we were going, like he knew how far we could go on a decent trip and catch another train to come back into Washington that evening. And we'd just ride the train. My brother and I, he would get us like a soft drink, and we loved for some reason like Roquefort cheese and crackers.
Sure.
And he'd get us that and a soft drink, and then Grandpa would have his medicine.
Oh, medicine, does it come in a bottle?
Yes, at
Yeah.
that time there was these little bottles, and so he was delighted, and he
Yeah.
usually brought a book along. And at that time, the railroads had like dome cars, and you could sit in the top and see. And the railroad that we traveled most of the time went along the Missouri River, so there was a lot to see and
Yeah.
keep two young kids interested, and Grandpa could have a good time the whole day and spend time with us too. And I mean, we talked a lot, and he,
Sure.
was always open and very talkative and enjoyed his grandkids. So
Yeah.
yeah, we went on a number of different rides with him, even up to like Decatur, Illinois, and
Yeah.
into Indiana, and went one time with my grandmother and my two great aunts, and my brother and I went to Colorado on the train, which
Wow.
was exciting as could be for us.
Sure. Yeah. Wow.
So that kind of always reinforced, my interest in railroads.
Yeah. But you it's interesting that you never actually pursued a career.
No, one time I asked my dad about I was probably, well, 11 or 12, and he was asking, well, what do you think you want to do? And I said, well, I really like the railroads. And he said, that's not a business that's going to keep going. And
Really?
this would have been the 60s.
Yeah.
So railroads were not in the best shape and everything. I don't know. But I must say, Ian, that I have an overwhelming fondness for biology,
Yes.
and I always have.
Yeah.
And that would have overridden, I think, in the long run, any career in like the railroads. I could have worked like a summer on the track gang or something, but I always had this burning desire to do something in biology.
Ooh.
And that was kind of a long trip uh, as it evolved, but it was definitely worthwhile. I mean, I had 33 years working with A&M
Wow.
and in a 100% research position. So I didn't do classroom teaching.
Yeah.
I had graduate students, but I was at a remote research center. We're 300 some miles from the main campus at A&M at College Station.
Yeah.
But I was just kind of turned loose on the panhandle,
Hmm.
and as for the state would give me a bit of money to begin with to get my program off the ground, and after that it was writing grants and getting them funded for specific research we wanted to do.
Yeah.
So it was challenging, but it was a lot of fun. I mean, I was in seventh heaven. Also, like that, I had this good friends with the Railroad Club. I was doing the job I wanted to. I met my wife here. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's been pretty cool.
That's amazing. Is that like a railroad map behind you on the wall? Is that what I'm
Oh,
seeing?
actually, that is a map of London
Oh.
uh, that was drawn up by the Germans. It's an invasion plan map of London.
Wow.
Judy and I love traveling, and we love England. And actually, these are a dime a dozen. in London. You can get them at almost any antique shop you go into. But it was just kind of interested me. Uh,
Yeah.
I like maps. I guess that's maybe some of the railroad stuff too. But this is just a big map, and it's all written in German. And
Oh,
but it has all the different places pointed out in London. So it was just fun. I got
yeah.
it. Let's see. Oh, I guess about 1998, something like that.
Wow.
Got it framed and stuck it on the wall. And it's a
Yeah.
good conversation piece too.
Yeah, I'd imagine that's very cool. So, obviously, if the museum's been open for 33 years, I would label that as a very successful museum.
We think we're
Where
pretty successful.
I would say so. Where do you think you guys went right?
I think it was having the vision plan.
Okay.
And there were enough of us that were dedicated to the fact that we were eventually going to own the property free and clear.
Okay.
And and our dues were kind of high. We're
Yeah.
$20 a month, which a lot of organizations like us are $20 a year.
Yeah.
And I know that that probably keeps our membership down because our dues are high, but we always took the position that if somebody was willing to pay $20 a month, once you got them into about um, 3 or 4 years, they came to realization that they had put in enough money that they're going to stay and work at this.
Oh, yeah. Good.
It's easier to walk away from a $20 a year commitment than it is $20 a month. So,
Yeah. True.
and well, that's part of it. But also, I think it's also camaraderie.
Yeah.
You get to know a lot of friends. Uh, y- you get to all of us kind of working towards a goal. There's times when we've got to really bust our butts to like we're going to have an open house in May.
Yeah.
And we're just getting to the point now that we got to really get after it, get everything cleaned up, and decide exactly what we're going to do. This will be our fourth open house we've had in May, and we'll have uh, the Amarillo Air and Space Museum will come out and set up a display. They can't bring in planes, unfortunately, but
Yeah.
we'll also have fire trucks. We'll have the Corvette Club will come out. Uh, and so it's become, we call it planes, trains, and automobiles, as a matter of
Yeah.
fact.
Right. It makes
And
sense.
then we open up the museum, the model railroad, and have make sure we have trains running all the time, and everybody's there to answer questions. Now we also have the some exhibits of the real thing. You know that we our first installation of the 42 kites um, device was on our helium car that we
Yes.
received from the Bureau of Mines, and that's
Yes.
been out there. What now? I guess over a year, and it's
Yeah.
still working fine. It's rugged
That's
as can
awesome.
be.
When your exhibits are outdoors and there is no electricity and no wall labels, how can you help guests explore those exhibits? The 42 Kites premium devices work great in sun-drenched meadows, rain-soaked trails, and snow-covered landscapes. They work anywhere you want them to. Only at 42kites.com.
By the way, I was clicking on your website and I saw, I don't know if it was a page about the helium train, and I
Yeah.
absolutely love the article. There's an article, I guess, that was written about it, and it's the most amazing title of an article ever, Passing
Passing
Gas.
gas. Yes. That's written by a
That's
fellow I know,
amazing.
the guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
He he had a good time with that. He presented
Yeah.
that as a talk at a Model Railroad Association meeting,
Yeah. That's
and
good.
everybody got the joke right off the bat.
So I was actually clicking around on Google Maps because the Google Street View around your museum.
Sure.
And obviously the trains are outside. Do people have to pay to go see the trains?
Nope, we're completely free. We just take donations. Now,
Okay.
at some time or another, we may go into a fee. Uh, but right now, since the model railroad isn't complete to the point, both from the status of it actually being physically complete, and we also can't be open uh, all that often. We're only open on Thursday evenings and then the second and fourth Saturdays of the month.
Okay.
So if we were up there and we were open 8 hours a day, 6 or 7 days a week, that would be one thing. And we probably would because we'd probably have to pay somebody to be out there.
Sure.
But since we're all volunteer, um, we have not done that. Our outdoor exhibits are open, and actually, some people from the public can go out there anytime and look at them.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's cool.
uh, there has always been a concern, are we going to get vandalism or tagging or things like that? However, one of the really interesting things about it, and this was just luck, we ended up building about a mile, maybe 3/4 of a mile from the Potter County sheriff's the jail.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a
I think I
whole
saw that on
bunch.
Google Maps.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
whole bunch of police traffic out
Okay.
there. Squad cars are going by, not all the time, but
Right.
every, like I'd say at least one an hour, maybe more than
Wow.
that. And so
That's,
there's so much police presence. We've
yeah,
never had a problem. We've never had any graffiti or anything like that.
that's great.
We're on the far north west side of Amarillo.
Okay.
So it's not a place where kids are going to be out running around in their cars. You almost have to be on your way down to town.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that makes a big difference.
Can I have some pictures that you posted
Sure.
on? Can I share my screen with you and you can tell me what I'm looking at?
Yeah.
All right, let
Okay, what
me.
do I need to do?
I don't think you have to do anything. I'm going to do
Okay.
it.
Yeah, sure.
Are you seeing my screen?
Oh yeah, I sure do.
So what am I looking at here?
Okay. The big one, the big picture on the left-hand side is the uh, northeast part of the layout. This would be the eastern side of the um, building, and on the right is the bottom is the main line uh, coming around from what would we call Miami to going into Pampa, and then the upper level is right above it, i.e., um, just above that
Here.
lantern. Yes,
Okay. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
still just upper main line.
Okay.
It has gone around and looped around, and actually on the right hand side is a structure of that same picture is a structure called the helix, and that is a spiral that goes from the
And this over
low.
here?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
about a 1.5% grade goes from the lower level to the upper level,
Okay.
and then you get to the upper level and you go all the way around.
Like back
Uh,
here?
yes, and you come back out there at the upper level.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
right there, right where you
Okay.
pointed at. Yeah,
And so this side and this side connect?
yes,
Okay.
yeah. It goes. Yeah, it does. It goes down. Uh, after you get up on the top to the helix, you go down and around this the side that first side there with the upper and lower levels that we were talking about. That's a peninsula that comes out uh, into the room. So the room has the railroads going around
Yeah.
uh, two of the walls. It's kind of like I guess like a big S shape.
Okay.
Uh, I don't know if you looked at the schematic of the layout or not, but
Well, I think I have that open. Is that this?
yes, that is it.
Okay.
So
Okay.
okay, where we were just at is at the lower right hand part of it of
So
that drawing.
here? Is
Now
that
keep coming over to your
over here?
there. Yeah, that's the helix.
Okay. Okay, so the camera
So
was probably about here, looking this way.
yes, exactly.
Hmm, okay. So obviously this picture was you guys published this in November 2019. I'm assuming it doesn't look like that now.
It pretty much not exactly. There's been a few changes made, but not much. Not much. Now that's another part of the story. Is that when we got to the point where we wanted to build the model railroad, uh, we knew that there was going to be a lot of discussion about what towns we include, what do we put where, what track goes where, and all this.
Yeah.
So, in order to stop that from being a problem, we had a professional fellow by the name of Byron Hendrickson design the layout for us.
No?
And the drawing that you were showing is his drawing.
Okay.
And he does this as this is his livelihood. It's his job.
Okay.
He designs model railroads. This way we had, I guess you could call our Bible. Uh,
Yeah.
we could always go back to that and say, well, this is what we decided we were going to do. We worked on the plans for that for about a year. I
Oh,
went back and forth with a number of members and with Byron and other people that were interested in the Santa Fe about how this needed to be developed. And I
yeah.
wasn't the main developer. There were two other people in our uh, club that were the real go-getters behind this. They knew more about the Santa Fe. I was just this upshot from Missouri. I
Right.
didn't grow up here in the Panhandle, so
Yeah.
um, and that's helped a lot because there's again, it's that whole thing of a common goal and
Yeah.
having the goal set and then pursuing it, rather than getting stuck on, half of the club wanting to do a yard here and the other half wanting to do the yard in a different place and nothing getting done.
Yeah.
This way, everybody can come in and within about 2 or 3 weeks, you can get a pretty good idea of where you can fit in, I guess. Do you
Yeah.
want to do track work? That's kind of a done situation, but there's quite a bit of scenery to do. As you notice, there's not a whole lot of scenery on this. It's mainly
Yeah.
just the track and the sub roadbed. I need to get some new pictures up because we
Yeah,
have
you
a
do.
couple of folks that are working on the scenery and they've done a really, really good job.
Oh.
And it's
What's with
looking, I'll get some Thursday night and get them up on the website.
there you go. What's with the IV bag? That's what it looks like.
That's a flycatcher.
Ah,
Or it actually that is a bag that is full of sugar or just water, and they're right uh where the photographer is standing is a there's a door right there to the outside.
yeah.
And for some reason, a lady who was a member of the group, she's passed on now, but she found out that if you put a bag like this with some water in it and set it out, flies don't like it. I guess
Oh.
it magnifies their vision and they think there's a bigger fly coming after them.
I
That's my understanding.
thought it
So,
would like it doesn't trap the fly in it.
no, no, this is just to deter them. It scares them. I get from what I understand, they're supposed to, if they fly up close to that bag, they see like a reflection of themselves,
Sure.
but it's much bigger.
Wow. I
And
didn't know
it
that was a
seems to
thing.
work.
Yeah.
We're the High Plains is cattle country, and there's a lot of flies.
The main building?
Yeah, and
Okay.
that's our 70, or excuse me, 50 by 100 foot building, and even that looks different now. That's an older picture, probably about 7 or 8 years ago. And then you can see part of our the nuclear weapons transport train in the background. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I got to get some fresh pictures up there. We have better. That's a good picture of the helium car,
Right. And so
and
this is
that's
the
where
building you
you're.
were just looking at, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah,
So
that's
obviously I have no idea how the train industry works.
okay.
How do you get new trains? You just like buy a train? Is there a
You
train
mean the
store?
big ones?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's all been by donation. Uh,
Wow.
Amarillo, it was always known as the helium capital of the world. I guess there's a lot of helium associated with the oil and natural gas wells.
Okay.
And the U.S. Bureau of Mines was responsible for harvesting this helium, and they ship it all over the country. A lot of defense, especially aerospace, uses helium because it can be made into a supercooled liquid.
Okay.
So, like, they use it on all of the rockets and even in some of the jet aircraft. Also, helium can be used to cool supercomputers. So, there's
Oh,
a lot of different uses for it. And they would ship it in these cars. These cars have those multiple tubes that you can see. and
Yeah.
each one of those is filled with helium, and then they were sent all over to these different installations. Well, the government decided that the Bureau of Mines was going to sell the helium operations to private industry.
Okay.
And so they were going to go out of business. They had no need for these cars. And so I just wrote a letter to the Bureau of Mines and explained that, you're going out of business. Amarillo is known as the helium capital. We have a railroad museum we're starting because we were in the early stages when we got this.
Yeah.
And we asked for a car, and they responded and said, sure.
That's amazing.
So, yeah, and the same way with all of the nuclear weapons transport trains, are cars. There was a member who works at Pantex, which is, it was originally started as a munitions dump in World War II, and then became the place that nuclear weapons were assembled for the whole country.
Wow.
And so another nickname for Amarillo is Bomb City. Now
Sounds
they
like a
don't.
nice place.
Oh yeah. They
Yeah.
don't construct nuclear weapons there anymore, but they do update them and upgrade them. So
Wow.
we still have a lot of that activity going on.
I
When
get.
they were making nuclear weapons, they used to send them to the various sites that were to get the bombs in these transport cars. But
Wow.
those were retired in, I believe, finally in '86, but really 1980 is a better date. There was really not much activity after that,
Yeah.
and there were so many problems with protesters
Like not wanting the
protesting the
bombs to be
well,
moved?
they just didn't like nuclear weapons at all, didn't want them to be transported, and they would protest them. They'd try and stop the train. They'd build barricades on the tracks. And this was all the whole route that the train was going. So it could be up in Washington that they were doing the protesting. I don't think in the Texas Panhandle there were any, at least not that I know of. And there was one incident, I believe, in the state of Washington, where a protester decided he was going to put his legs on the track and that the
Oh.
train would stop, and it couldn't, and it cut off his legs.
Oh, wow.
So after these kind of problems, they decided first it to not paint the train white anymore. They painted each car a different color. Well, the protesters knew well enough, and they still followed the train, so they decided to stop all rail transport of nuclear weapons, uh, which I guess in some ways is good. There was never a nuclear wreck or a problem with the transportation, but now you don't see this weapons transport train anymore, but they carry nuclear weapons in semi trucks on the interstates.
Wow. That seemed like
So
the beginning
before
of
he
a
was
bad
on the
movie.
railroad, miles from you, now you're passing them.
Wow, wow, wow. Well, thanks for unlocking that new fear.
Oh, I don't think you have to be fearful. They're not triggered and ready to go.
Okay. So I'm assuming this is obviously a small model train inside.
Yes.
Yeah. And that-
Okay, and okay, yeah, you can see some of the scenery
yeah, you're
going
building
in
it
there
up.
on the lower level.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's uh, one of our members. His name is Chris Mitchell.
Okay.
He got going on this. Uh, the name of that place is Kyler,
Yeah. Yeah.
Cuyler. You can see it on the sign in the back,
Is
and
that in
it's
Texas?
mainly just a grain elevator.
Ah. Is
On the
Coiler in Texas?
Yes, it's between well, there'd be Amarillo, Pampa, Kyler, and then excuse me, Amarillo, Panhandle, Kyler, and then Pampa. And so it was just actually a siding that the railroad had, and a company had built a grain elevator there. The surrounding area is all flat wheat fields, and so they'd bring their crops in there, and they'd be stored in those silos, and then the railroad would have cars come out and they'd fill them with the grain. So
Okay.
it was like the origin for the grain to be shipped on the railroad wherever it needed to go.
Well, that makes sense. And so you guys sell these, right? You sell model trains?
Um,
I feel like I saw that on your website.
Now, oh yes, this is now what this is. We do sell custom made cars. Yes, that's true. As a matter of fact, that's a good source of income for us. This particular picture, there's a company called Scale Trains. As a matter of fact, they're doing a custom car for us that we'll get in the latter part of the summer. They came out, they were doing a tour across the country, and they came out and visited the museum one night and gave a talk about scale trains and what they do. And it was kind of open to the public, and they showed off what they're doing, what their wares are, and all that. So
Yeah.
it was a fun time.
Yeah. So does this company like take a bunch of pictures of your trains and then they go turn it into models? Is that how it works?
No, it's more that they go and take pictures of the real thing and then make them into models.
Well, that's what I mean, like the real thing at your museum.
Um, They have taken, as a matter of fact, they have taken pictures of the helium car, and we're
Oh,
hoping that they will make a model out of that.
yeah.
We talked to them about the nuclear transport train, but I kind of doubt that that's going to end up being a model. Um,
Yeah.
the Scale Trains is they sell nationwide and make models for all different kinds of railroads and both the locomotives and the cars. So they're not associated with us a whole lot
Yeah.
in that regard. They are more interested in probably selling their models and various things to other people.
Yeah. I see this one. I can see this one coming along, building out some greenery.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the Canadian River in Canadian Texas. A member who was one of our founders, he died last year. He's a really, really close friend of mine here in Amarillo. His name was Virgil Doyle, and he scratch built that bridge out of just raw materials,
Wow.
styrene and wood and plaster. And that was a walk. It was originally a wagon bridge in Canadian, and it was the first bridge that they built across the Canadian River. And they would, the farmers would bring their produce, or people would ride horses, whatever, across that. It was taken out as a functional bridge, I imagine, in the 50s, but it was preserved. And it you can go up to Canadian and walk across it. It's kind of interesting to do that in the spring or fall.
Yeah.
Uh, as you might know, the Panhandle is pretty flat and not a whole lot of trees. But you
Yeah.
get up to Canadian and it's in the Canadian River Valley, and there's a lot of uh, trees and really some really good trees, good sized trees. And it's nice to go up there, especially in the fall, because it's about the only place you can go and get really nice fall colors.
Wow. This is the first I'm hearing about a place called Canadian Texas, by the way.
Okay. It's
This is very,
about 100 miles northeast of Amarillo and it's right on the Oklahoma Canadian, excuse me, Oklahoma Texas border.
what is this?
That's a hand car. That actually came from Pantex with the donation of the nuclear transport cars. These were little cars that were hooked up to a motorized uh, hand car, and a crew or equipment would sit on those, and they'd be hooked up to the motorized hand car, and they could go to different places on the railroad that were inaccessible by highways, and they
Yeah.
could work on the railroad there. And they could maybe just one car, maybe four or five cars could be hooked up to them. These are really from an older time. I would say that they kind of went out of favor maybe in the 50s
Okay.
because the work that was done was not done kind of piecemeal, one little section of rail at a time. So the use for these was just not there. You can see one of our nuclear weapons transport cars in the background. That
This right here?
yeah, that was called a guard escort coach, and the soldiers that were guarding the nuclear weapons train lived in that. It was like a Pullman sleeper. It had bunks, kitchen, uh, then the raised area, the cupola at the end of it there.
Yeah, this part
They
here.
yeah, they could sit up there and observe the train. So
Okay.
the train was never unguarded. There was always somebody there to watch it. And actually, they put one of these at the front end and one at the rear of the train. So they had two sets of security crews.
Yeah,
We
that's
have one of the cars that the interior is accessible by the public when we're there, and it has all the parts of the like the microwave oven, the
yeah.
table, the ashtrays, and the bunks, everything that was there when it was retired in the 1980s.
Wow, that's cool. I had no idea these things happened. This one's interesting.
Okay, that's a locomotive that was out at Pantex. It's in terrible need of a paint job.
Yeah.
Um, it was used on the Pantex ground to move cars around within the complex itself. And it's a working locomotive. As a matter of fact, you could go out and start it up today. And
Wow.
we did use it for a while. Uh, we'd take visitors, they'd sit up on the catwalk or whatever, and we'd go up to the end of our property and then back just to give them an idea of what it was to like to ride on a locomotive. However, we've kind of stopped that because we've never had a problem, but we're concerned about liability.
Yeah, that is
And we would,
definitely a
we
problem.
wouldn't want a little kid or even a young old kid to fall off of it.
Yeah, that would be really like this kid right here.
Yeah. Now that
Yeah, you
is the
don't want him,
interior of one of those guard escort cars. That's
right?
up in the cupola, up in the top.
It's you can
So
tell it's like very armored looking.
yeah, oh yeah, and those he's pointing towards a window. Those are
Yeah.
2 inch thick plexiglass bulletproof windows that are in the cars. Now, over time, that plexiglass is fogged, and one of the things we'd like to do is replace those windows with new material so you could
Sure.
see out.
Yeah,
And
that would be cool.
as a matter of fact, we have a grant proposal that we're waiting to hear from probably this month or next month about starting to redo some of these cars.
Wow. Just taking a look at what else
That's
we got here.
that's kind of a thing that we have uh, what a responsibility since we've gotten these.
Yeah,
Uh,
keep them maintained, sure.
yeah, to keep them maintained, not just let them rust away. Okay, now that I don't know. I think
I say I
that
like that
is,
one.
yeah, yeah, that would be a neat exhibit to have. I
Yeah,
think that's
cool.
at the Planes, Trains, and Automobiles
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
show either last year or the year before. I think oh, it'd have to be the year before because last year we had rain. Yeah, the Canyon Police brought up one of their urban assault wagons. And I'll tell you what, those and fire trucks and trains, you put them together and kids go nuts.
Yeah, they're very cool. Look at that. It looks like an open house kind of thing.
Yes, yeah, that could probably during the open house year before last.
Yeah.
And yeah, as you can kind of see, we're in a state of I wonder. Now I'm getting curious because like having that soldering iron out and stuff is really unusual. This could have just been a Saturday where we
Yeah.
end up
Just
with a good number of
visitors.
people. Yeah, I
Yeah.
because it looks like things are being worked on, so
Yeah, it
um,
does.
I'm pretty sure that had to be just on a given Saturday.
So is this just like where a train conductor would do his thing?
That's another shot of the interior of one of the guard escort cars. That's
Okay.
where they had all the gauges for their generators and also all their radio communications. When we got the cars, they had taken out all of the radios that were of any importance, and that makes sense because I'm sure they were all, had their own secret frequencies and things like that.
Yeah. Wow. And so the majority of these you say, oh, actually, what is this? Oh, look at that. They're like little buildings.
Okay, that is there like a showcase sitting off on one wall where we've been putting all the buildings that are going to end up on the layout.
Okay.
We had a member, his name was Virgil Young. He was an absolutely super uh, builder for buildings and structures, and uh, he had excellent talent for like taking a structure and make it look weathered like it had been out in the elements for years. And a lot of those are his, but there's also a lot that other members have built, and we're kind of just keeping them there so the details don't get broken off until
Yeah.
we can get take one and put it out on the layout and get it uh, firmly in place and secure.
Yeah.
But yes, we have hundreds and hundreds of buildings to put
I
out.
guess. Yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah.
Going back, I know we've over email talked about various things. Just going back to that map that you have over there. Tell me about some of the places you've traveled to, because I love talking about travel.
Oh, good. Well, so do I.
Yeah.
um, with A&M, I traveled a good amount, but not overseas too much. I traveled mainly all over the US
Yeah.
and into Canada. My wife and I, though, both like traveling together. And let's see, I guess we've been to Greece, Italy, England, um, France, and I think that's it. We really have a penchant for England and Italy, though. Uh,
Yeah.
England just because we've both fallen in love with it and we just love the countryside. We like London, we like the Cotswolds. We could go all over. I could live in England very easily.
Do you have ancestry from England with the last name Michaels?
No, my ancestors now Judy's side of the family probably came from England. My side is about 98% Irish.
Okay.
The Michaels got stuck in there. My paternal grandfather was German, and he came over from Germany in the early 1900s. But everything else is Casey and Ryan and Hayden and heck, whatever. We
Yeah.
actually, Judy and I also spent 2 weeks in Ireland a few years ago, and we really loved that also. But one of our favorite places is Italy. And working with A&M, we had a fellow come in and start working on a postdoc that had come from Italy.
Hmm.
And he ended up uh, coming on being promoted to a research scientist here. And for some reason, he and I just fell in like brothers immediately. And then he and his wife and my wife, the four of us just we got along like just so well. And our first trip to Italy, we went with them. They went with us. And it was so nice because Giovanni was from Italy and his wife is from California, but uh, she's multilingual. She speaks Spanish fluently, uh, Italian, French, any of the Romance languages. So
Yeah.
when
That's
we went
handy.
to Italy, we had tour guides with us. I mean, not only a native, but two people that spoke Italian fluently. So we had absolutely no problem getting around. We went to Rome, Naples, Pompeii. We also went to a little town down in the heel of the boot called Lecce,
Okay.
near Brindisi, and or Bari would be another larger town that way. But it's way off the beaten path,
Yeah.
and very few tourists, other than Italian tourists, come to Lecce. And so we spent a week and a half of just kind of being Italian citizens,
Wow.
and not running into tourist locations and stuff,
Yeah.
but just kind of, the getting up the morning, going out and getting your espresso and
Yeah.
a little bit of a pastry to eat, and then
Yeah. Yeah.
you walk around for a while, then you eat some more, then you
Right.
walk around, then you eat some more, then you go take a nap when it gets hot, then you get up and you go eat.
Yeah.
And it was just so much fun. It was just like we kind of wanted to blend in. We probably didn't. We probably stuck out like sore thumbs, but we wanted to blend in. But
Yeah.
we've gone over there that trip, and we met his folks that live there, and his family. They all live in Italy, in Lecce. And then we've been over two more times. Once we met Gina and Giovanni in Rome, and then went to Sicily. Uh, and then we went over for their 25th wedding anniversary, uh, and spent about another 2 weeks there. That was at Gallipoli in Italy. It's not the Gallipoli that's in Turkey from World War One. This is Italy's Gallipoli. It's a
Okay.
seaside resort, uh, or seaside town at least. Wouldn't necessarily call it a resort. but it's right on the Adriatic, and it's just absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
And I can't get enough of Italy either. I love the people there. They're the most friendly people I think I've ever met.
Yeah. I love
But
the I can't speak the language, but I love the language.
oh, me too.
It sounds
Yeah, and I
amazing.
could pick up enough to get myself in trouble, or at least to get a cab to get around to different parts. And like that, the people are so friendly. They're so willing to help. You
Yeah.
know, if you can just get a few words out, they'll turn on the charm immediately.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
At least that's been my experience.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Of all the places that you mentioned, I've only been to Rome. What did you think of
Okay.
Rome?
I loved it. I am in addition to liking railroads, I also love history.
Yeah.
And I have always kind of been enthralled with the ancient Greeks and Romans. And so being able to go to Rome and see the Colosseum and the Arch of Titus and to walk through the Forum, I mean, it was just like, I mean, the hair would stand on the back of my neck.
Yeah, I'd
I'm
imagine.
also Catholic too, so we
Yeah.
got to see Vatican City and we
Yeah.
took the formal tour of it. And I mean, we had a really good time. It was really a lot of fun. And Giovanni and Gina also had been there many times before, and they took us to some more out of the way places, some of the more obscure churches and stuff
Yeah.
that they knew that not everybody would see. So we may have missed some of the really popular churches, but we also saw some that maybe nobody else is seeing.
Yeah.
And we saw the Sistine Chapel and all the good
Yeah,
things
yeah.
like that. So we really enjoyed it.
That's right. When I was there, it was kind of at the height of COVID, so couldn't go
Oh,
inside anything.
yeah.
Yeah.
See, you were there, yeah, during COVID. We were there probably about, well, it was mid 90s, I guess,
Okay.
or maybe right around 2000,
Yeah.
something like that. So yeah, we didn't have the problems you would have had during COVID. How
Yeah.
did you just decide to start traveling worldwide when COVID came about or?
Actually, we decided to start traveling, and then about a month later, COVID presented itself.
Mm,
It was at the end of December, maybe New Year's Eve on in December 2019. We were like, let's do this. And then
okay.
COVID came out around early February, but we decided to push ahead anyway, and eventually ended up in Rome. I think it was
Huh.
beginning of December of 2020. So we really didn't get to go to many restaurants because they shut down everything.
Oh, yeah, yeah, imagine that could be tough.
It was. And they were very strict. You couldn't leave your apartment and walk around unless you registered on this government website and said where you were going and what you were doing. And you had to print it out and take it with you. But we
Huh.
didn't have a printer in our Airbnb. So
Huh.
essentially, we were under like house arrest
Oh my
for that
goodness.
amount of time. It wasn't fun, but we got to do all the outdoor things. You can walk around the Coliseum, you can walk to the
Yeah,
back, the Trevi Fountain, all that fun stuff. So I would like
but
to go
yeah.
back and be able to go inside these places.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully you got into some places to eat the food.
If Grandma is visiting your museum, why make her struggle to read the small print on the wall labels? With the 42 Kites premium devices, she can make the text as big as she wants. Get yours today, only at 42kites.com.
A couple of places to eat food, but we were really excited to actually get into the Coliseum. That did open up like the
Oh,
last
okay.
week we were there. That was awesome because obviously, if you've been there, there's a museum inside the walls.
Yes.
When you get outside. It was really something.
I can see the Colosseum because it's from the outside, then you go into it, then you go outside again.
Yeah, yeah,
For
yeah.
all practical purposes, where where the spectacles were held is outside.
Sure, yeah.
So,
And
but
of course,
oh, I wouldn't have liked to have done. I'm glad we didn't have to do Rome that way because like that we were footloose and fancy free the whole time.
I'm jealous. Every single photograph we have of us, we all have masks on.
Oh
Even
gosh.
outside in the open air Coliseum, we have masks on.
Well, I hope you can get back there.
I hope so
Another
too.
town we visited during that first trip was Venice, and we loved that too.
Looks amazing.
Uh, Quite touristy in places, especially down around the uh, where the hotel, where San Marco is,
Yeah.
the Piazza San Marco, and all that. But you can get back into Venice a bit, and it's again fun. You know, you can find a lot of little tiny places and all this good stuff.
I have notes of things I want to talk to you about my
Sure, go
campaign.
right ahead. I'm
Well, no,
open.
but one of them I think has to do with travel and starting your museum and your work. And that is a concept that you told me about a year ago and I loved, and that was of a tapestry, thinking of your life as a tapestry.
Oh, okay, sure.
That was such a wonderful um, mindset or framework to have to think about your life. What type of things are in your tapestry?
Oh boy. I've always just my whole to me and I guess the way I have built my philosophy is that it's kind of like the faiths in Greek mythology. You have uh y- one spins the thread of life, one
Yeah,
measures it out, and one cuts it off.
yeah,
And life to me, more than just a single thread, it seems like it's just all these threads that intertwine. And
yeah,
if you start tugging on one of them, you're going to change all of the rest of them, which
yeah, yeah,
is
yeah.
a little more complex than just measuring and cutting. But you know, I can go back and you can always say what if. And I
Yeah.
guess what the main thing it has done is stopping me from regretting doing something.
Yeah.
Because let's say I was when I received my PhD from University of Wyoming in 1980, and I was arrogant as can be, and I thought I would surely get the job I wanted. All I had to do was ask.
Yeah.
Well, a year and a half later, the arrogance was pretty well burned out of me. But I because two job offers came at once then, one from Montana State University and one from Texas A&M. And Texas A&M came. It was first. It was about a week earlier than MSU. And so I interviewed down here and decided if they would take me, that's where I wanted to go.
Yeah.
Uh, and they did. And by making that choice, I came down here. I didn't particularly like Amarillo to begin with,
Yeah.
but I met my wife, my son. We built a house. I met Virgil Doyle, who is this dear friend of mine. We had the common interest in model railroading.
Yeah.
Uh, I've met another one of my hobbies is stamp collecting.
Okay.
And one of the fellows that was a good friend of mine at work, we were driving down to College Station for a meeting one year, and we started talking about various things. And for some reason, I don't know why it came up, but something came up about stamps. And we found out that we both liked them. He
Yeah.
was well, we were both actually pretty dormant at the time uh, on collecting, and he got going on it. And he ended up becoming really well known in the philatelic, which is the word for stamps, for in that world. I mean,
Okay.
he's an editor. He's written books,
Oh,
uh, and it's all kind of started from this conversation. So from not getting the job right off out of Wyoming to coming to work here, to meeting my wife, to getting Dan started up with his stamps again, to him writing books. It's you could follow that thread all the way through, you know. And if you had plucked one of those away, then in my opinion, then that wouldn't have happened. It gone some other way. Now, that's not to say it was bad, but I'm just saying that I wouldn't want to go back and change it because it's been good. Now, I must admit, I've been lucky. I've been, I've had a pretty good life.
yeah.
I'm 71 and I get along pretty good. Uh, I am still optimistic about things, and life is still intriguing to me.
Yeah.
I think a whole bunch of things are absurd, but that's okay too because that keeps me busy and interested.
Okay. So if you're happy with how the pieces of your life have connected and formed this, we'll call it the tapestry. Does that mean you don't really believe in having regrets about things?
Agreed. Yes, I don't. I really don't.
Okay.
I can't say that I have never thought, would it be good if you had done this instead?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But and Ian, that maybe I'm too optimistic about how good my life has been.
Yeah.
Because I could see somebody arguing against that, saying, well, if I hadn't uh, started drinking and became an alcoholic, I wish I hadn't done that. I can understand that. And so maybe I'm just lucky in that regard, and that my life has been good and I don't have regrets.
Yeah.
But I think everybody, no matter where they've ended up, if you could go back and change it, you don't know where that
Right.
would lead.
Yeah.
It could be
Absolutely.
worse.
Oh yeah, it can always be worse. Yeah, if I never took a job at Domino's Pizza in the late 90s, I would have never met my wife.
Yeah, okay.
And if I never took a road trip with my friend to New York City, I would have never followed a path in the internet web design world, and I would not be sitting here with you right now. Because on that
Yes.
trip to, this was in the 90s, in New York City, you could buy software on the street,
Okay.
bootleg
Interesting.
software. Yeah, and so I went there with the intention of buying a copy of Microsoft Office 1998 because it included something called Microsoft Front Page. And Front Page is what I learned web design on way back in the day, and that has been my entire adult life. But if I never went to New York City that day, I would have never gotten it. I might have been doing something else. I wouldn't be talking to you.
Yeah. Yep. That's kind of the uh, experiences I've had. Let me tell you I'll try and tell this pretty quick. Meeting my wife. So you had said you met your wife at Domino's.
I did.
Um, so I came to work in December of 1981 at A&M, and I had a townhouse apartment, and I had a lady coming over and cleaning once a week. Uh, I guess I was thinking that since I was an assistant professor, I didn't need to do my own house. Well, her name was Lily. She was a really nice lady, very unattractive, scraggly red hair, some teeth missing, but she did a really good job for cleaning.
Yeah.
So my friend Dan, the stamp collector, and I had gone out to eat for lunch, and I had dribbled something down my front, and I needed to go home and change
Yeah.
shirts. I only lived about a couple of miles from my office at that time, and so I went home, opened the door, went in, and there was this girl walked out, and it wasn't Lily.
Oh.
Oh, and I didn't think a whole lot about it, and it was kind of funny because I went and changed my shirt and stuff, and she was very pleasant and everything, and said, did I need anything? And I said, well, I like to get my shirts ironed, and she said, well, I don't do ironing. And I said, well, yeah, but boy, I really need them for next week. And I didn't think any more of it and went back to work and so forth. Came back home that evening, and she had left a check deposit slip sitting on my couch.
Okay.
And of course, it had her name and phone number. And on the back of it was something about she had gotten to my shirts, and all my shirts were ironed and hung up.
Wow.
And then that was a Friday. Saturday, she called me and asked me over for supper.
Yeah.
And so I went over about a week later for supper, and then we started dating then, and it just went on, and we got married a year later.
Wow.
And if like that, without the job from A&M, even without slopping salsa on my shirt, we would have never met. So it was a similar thing, that if I had not even just if I had been very clean and not sold my shirt, we would have never met.
Wow. So it's like it all happened for a reason.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm a big believer in that. It all
Yeah.
happens for a reason.
And obviously, this is the first time we're talking face to face here,
Yeah.
but this confirms something that I've felt about you ever since we've been emailing, is that you're a very happy, positive person. That's what I'm getting here. And it's really nice to see someone your age being like that because I feel like a lot of people become bitter at the world, at their spouse, at their choices in life, and they become pissed off and angry. But that's not you, and that's awesome.
I don't think so. No, I have to say that's right. I don't. So
No,
right here,
you
sitting here
seem like
now,
a
I'm
happy
very happy.
person,
Yeah.
right?
Well, that's always kind of been my nature. I've always kind of been an optimist,
Yeah,
uh, and maybe to a fault. I know sometimes I will irritate the heck out of Judy because it can be a problem coming along or something, and I'm more willing to be optimistic or even make a joke.
yeah, yeah,
Uh, in order to keep that. I don't want everybody to always laugh, and I mean everybody knows they're very serious times, but
yeah,
I'm always looking for that silver lining. And
yeah,
sometimes I overstep my bounds on that, but in the long run it's done well for me.
yeah.
um it's I think I've talked to you about the fact that in 2019 I get hit with this neurological disease.
Yes,
Yeah, well, I still have the double vision and what they call ataxia, which means I have terrible balance.
yeah,
But even I could have given up
yeah,
after that and said, well, I'm not going to do model railroading anymore. I don't want to do computers. I'm just going to sit and watch Jeopardy all day
right,
long, on
right,
TV. Uh, but that doesn't work for me.
yeah,
As long as I can, as long as I'm not bedridden or have something that's worse than this, I won't. I'll just continue. I
yeah,
had a nun that told me this was about fifth grade, and she was a pretty wise lady. And one of her sayings was, it's better to wear out than it is to rust out."
yeah,
And I've always thought that
yeah,
that's
yeah.
always stuck with me. Always keep active, uh,
Right.
as much as you can. This friend of mine, Virgil Doyle, who had built that Canadian River Bridge, um, sadly, he rusted out. He
Yeah,
just got to I'd say he got to about 72, and he just started doing that, staying up until 3 in the morning, sleeping until noon,
yeah,
and not doing anything most of the day except sitting in a recliner watching TV. And his health just went down. His
yeah,
attitude got bad.
yeah.
Yeah, and it was just kind of a downward spiral, and maybe not everything in life that comes along is good, but I would never want to get caught in that spiral.
Yeah, I agree. We need more people to look at the positive side of things like you're doing. Like
Agreed.
I had a great aunt who had got uh some sort of cancer. I'm not sure. It wasn't obviously all cancer is bad, but it was cancer that they were able to cut out and remove. So that didn't do anything.
Okay.
But she was bedridden for a little bit after that. And that did something to her brain where she just didn't want to go out, didn't want to associate with people, didn't want to go to family gatherings. And the
Oh
last
yeah.
decade or so of her life was basically spent laying on her side in her living room watching television.
Yep.
So while she died in 2021, I really felt like she died back in 2011.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. Sure.
And it
Yeah,
happens to,
because what was yeah, well it had to be just sad for her.
yeah,
You feel bad for her because she's not having a good time.
right, right.
Sometimes I think I've thought about this with this disease a lot, and I'm thinking as long as I can read and work a computer, I'm going to be pretty happy.
That's
I
great.
would, I still like getting outside. I also have always enjoyed building wood frame buildings, and I
Okay.
built like three of them on my property plus a deck. I can't do that anymore, but I can still fiddle with them and
Yeah.
do maintenance or whatever. I would be afraid of driving nails through my fingers now, but
Yeah.
I can still do some repairs and things like that. And I just like working outside. What my whole career was working outside.
Yeah.
I was not an office professor. I was more of a field guy, and I
Yeah.
like going out. And a lot of times it was kind of miserable working in cornfields and stuff like that in the middle of summer.
Yeah.
But it was also, you felt good after a hard day's work like that. Come home sweaty and stinky and take a shower, and oh man, I feel good
Yeah.
now.
Right. Feel like you accomplished something.
Yes. So
Yeah.
where did you start off at? Where'd you grow up?
Massachusetts.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Right. And then when I was around 30, I
Uh-huh.
smartened up and said, I don't like snow.
Ah.
My wife doesn't like snow either. So Florida's the place that we wanted to set up a life. And so we bought this house in 2015.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I've been here ever since. But it's great to see your attitude and your happiness, and you have an infectious smile
Oh,
and
thank you.
and good vibes coming. So I'm loving it. And do you think that we should anything else you want to talk about? It's good to end on a high note, and I think we're at a high note right now.
I think we are, yeah. That's
Yeah,
nothing that really comes to my mind, but I must admit, this has been super just being able to talk back and forth with you.
I agree.
Email is fine, and I like it better than texting, but
Yeah,
there's nothing like face to face, and this is cool. I have really gotten to enjoy these talks that you can do by computer now.
yeah, absolutely.
FaceTime and Zoom, and I've been on some others. That's probably why I didn't make the connection right away because I had other face to face software, but I didn't have Zoom.
Yeah,
Because I
yeah,
was just on a meeting very similar to this about 2 weeks ago. Well, actually, it was my friend Giovanni. He uh, he left here and went to work for Monsanto, then which is ended up being Bayer.
yeah,
But he's trying to get a job as the director of the Texas Water Research Institute at College Station. And it would be amazing if he came back here. I would
yeah,
even if that would be at College Station, but it would be so good to have he and his wife back in this area, in this
yeah. That
state
would
at
be great.
least.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, but it was curious. All of a sudden, I was thinking, okay, what am I doing wrong? And then you said, "Do you have Zoom installed?" And I went, I bet that's the problem. And it took what 30 seconds to install Zoom, and I was
Yeah,
ready to go.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty well done, I guess. If you
Good.
are,
Yeah, absolutely. It's been great talking with you, getting to learn about your tapestry.
okay, good.
Yeah.
I hope I explained that well.
You did, and it was fantastic. And if you ever find yourself in the Tampa, Orlando area, shoot me a
Yeah,
message.
shoot. And if you end up coming to the High Plains, I mean, my goodness, we'll even take you out to eat steak.
What a deal. Well,
Okay, Ian,
all right. Thank you
good,
so much
great.
for talking.
Scenes from the next episode of The Condition Report.
But you need to have ambition to get anywhere, right?
Right.
Be a doctor, etc. I have this friend in Mexico City whose grandma asked him, "Oh, don't you want to be a priest?" And he was like, "Can I be the Pope?"
He's
That's
got
when the
goals.
vision,
There you
yeah,
go.
why Yellow Cow has persisted or
Yeah.
endure. And perhaps it's because of that, of not giving up and learning from mistakes.
Like, was this like a dream of yours back in the day to be this international traveler, business, education, consulting person, or did it just kind of happen?
I don't know the consulting part, but the traveling, yes, for sure.